Hi everyone, yasas que thatthe to another episode of Dimitra's Dishes. Get ready to fall in love with the spinach and feta cheese galette that's made in a flaky and buttery puff pastry. The whole thing is going to be ready in an hour. It is perfect for entertaining. If you're looking for a delicious and show-stopping appetizer, this is it. Let's get started. So add a few tablespoons of olive oil to a pan that's heating over medium heat. Then add the scallions. Cook them for 3 or 4 minutes or until they're nice and soft. Next, we're going to add the garlic. I have 3 garlic cloves here that have been grated, and I'm just going to warm them through until they're fragrant. Grated garlic can burn quickly, so don't cook it too much. Then I'm going to add a pound of baby spinach leaves, but I'm going to add them in a few batches, and I'm also going to increase the heat to high, so that way any liquid that's released will evaporate quickly. Make sure to season each batch of spinach with some salt and freshly ground black pepper. Once the spinach has wilted, take the pan off of the heat, and then we're going to add cream cheese. I have 8 ounces, which is a package of cream cheese that's been sitting out at room temperature, so it's nice and soft. I'm going to add it to the warm spinach mixture and just mix it around until it's melted and fully incorporated. If you don't like cream cheese, you can definitely add full-fat ricotta cheese to this. An equal amount will work. It's going to be much lighter, but I feel like the cream cheese holds everything together well. Once that's incorporated, I have 8 ounces of feta cheese. I'm just going to crumble it in. If you want to, you can add a teaspoon of dried dill to this or some finely chopped fresh dill. That will work as well. Give the mixture a taste, and if it tastes good, if it doesn't need any more salt or pepper, set it aside so it can cool completely. Now we're going to roll out the puff pastry. So I have this big sheet of puff pastry. It's about 500 grams, which is around a pound. And I get it from my restaurant supply store just because it's so much easier to work with and it's so much prettier than the packages that have the 2 pieces of puff pastry that are much thinner in them. This just rolls out easier. You don't have to connect 2 pieces together, although if that's all you have, you could definitely use those. You could either make 2 galettes or just 1 big one by rolling them out into one big either rectangle or circle. I'm going to get this rectangle to look like a circle. So this pizza pan that I have over here is what I'm going to use for measurement. I want it to be about the size of that circle that's inside, which is that's about 16 inches in diameter, but I want it to be a little bit smaller than that, maybe about 14 inches. So I just dusted the parchment with a little bit of flour, and I'm just going to roll this out. So that way there's about a 14-inch circle somewhere in there. Perfect. So when you have a parchment paper under there, it makes it so much easier to transfer it onto the pan. And then with a fork, just pierce it all around. This is going to keep it, for the most part, from rising up in the center. And then you're going to take all of that creamy spinach and cheese filling and just spread it. Spread it onto the puff pastry sheet, leaving room for the border, which is going to become the crust. Smells so good. Smells like Spanakopita. And then you can totally leave it like this. This is cheesy enough, but if you want to add another layer of cheesiness, I have some gouda cheese. This is about 2 or 3 ounces, about 90 grams of gouda cheese. I didn't use all of the feta cheese that I had taken out, which was about 8 ounces. I believe I used about 6 ounces because I think it was going to be too much feta. And I just grated some gouda cheese. This is going to add a little bit of a stringy texture when it melts, almost like a pizza type topping. Then I'm going to take all of the edges and I'm going to fold them over the filling to create a rustic crust. Look at how beautiful that looks. Now I'm just going to brush the edges with egg wash. I just combined 1 egg yolk with a couple tablespoons of whole milk. I whisked it all together, and I'm just going to brush the edges generously so that way they get nice and golden in the oven. So my oven is preheated to 400 degrees Fahrenheit. This is going to bake on the center rack for about 25 minutes. Then I'm going to raise it to the top rack so it can get more color and let it bake on the top rack for another 5 minutes. Once it comes out of the oven, it's going to need some time to settle, about 10 or 15 minutes, and then it'll be ready to serve. Your house is going to smell incredible. Let's do the taste test because it's finally cooled down and I can taste it. Just look at how creamy the spinach and cheese filling is. It's perfectly cooked underneath. It's not soggy at all. Before we do the taste test, I want to say that this is definitely similar to my Spanakopita filling that I use in most of my Spanakopita type recipes, except I did what I normally don't do, and I cooked the spinach. Most of my Spanakopita recipes, use fresh spinach, and that's because they usually cook a little bit longer. They're in phyllo, and it doesn't work in this recipe because it's going to make the puff pastry soggy. The spinach is going to release too much water. It's not going to cook long enough. I have tried it. This is the best way to do it, so trust me on it. Now time for the taste test. Oh my goodness. Absolutely divine. So good. The puff pastry is so good, buttery, flaky, perfectly cooked. That spinach filling is creamy. It's so luscious. Perfect amount of feta. The cream cheese really holds it all together. But like I said, if you don't like cream cheese or you don't have any, and if you have some ricotta on hand, you can use that instead. And if you want to use phyllo instead of the puff pastry, you can do that too. Just use half a pound of phyllo and butter each layer, and you do the same exact thing. Put everything in the center and, fold the edges to make a nice crust, and you bake it for the same amount of time. I hope you guys give this recipe a try. The exact measurements, as always, are on the website, dimitrasdishes.com. Thank you so much for spending time with me today. I'll see you all next time. Yes, us.